Just move away from us, son. Real easy, like your ass depended on.
If you laugh, you can, and I'll bust you to Boy Scout, I swear.
Those nights watch your balls because they have nothing their own.
Nash, I don't think you could pick your nose without written instructions.
It's Saxon Samhain.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Blood and Black Rum podcast. I'm Ryan from ColdSploitation.com. I'm joined with my co-host Martin.
How's it going?
Doing pretty well. We are back at Saxon Samhain, our celebration of everything John Saxon for this year's Halloween festival. Hopefully everybody's doing well with their Halloween season so far. We're 9 days into it now, as of recording time, and I've been celebrating every day. I've been watching different movies every day. We've been doing special stuff on ColdSploitation, and and John Saxon has been tagging along here and there with us as we continue on our search to find an actually good John Saxon movie that we've done for Saxon Samhain. No offense, but we've encountered some Saxon Drek here and there. Not everyone can have a stellar oeuvre like Leonardo DiCaprio.
Well, when you got, it's not like he's Daniel Day-Lewis, handcrafting, picking out roles every,
It's true.
once a millennia and the stars online. He did almost 200 roles, 197 acting credits. So,
Right, and they're not all going to be
winners. He's just in it for the love of the craft.
Yeah, and it's okay. I'm not getting sick of John Saxon. Are you? As we've,
No,
4 movies in now.
Because it hasn't been him that's the problem.
That's right. Yeah. He's never the problem. He's always great. And, again, like we said, there's never a time where you get John Saxon, but you've got in a phoned in narrative or something. No, he's always the one that's doing his own dubbing. So, it's always quality work from Saxon. It's just the script or whatever that's needs to be better. So this time around, though, we did discuss doing this one. I totally forgot until the day of, and I was like, which one are we doing again? And you reminded me that we did discuss it on the last episode of what we were actually doing. Well, we wanted to go in...
Yeah, because you were like, which one do you want to do? Scorpion's Tail or something else? And I was like, we already set the end of the podcast that last week. We're doing the bees.
That's right. Yeah, we're going with, we wanted to do something, I remember now, we wanted to do something a little bit different that kind of got us away from, we didn't want to do another Italian, horror film. We didn't want to do some of the schlockier stuff that we've been covering or an older movie, a newer movie, I mean. So we decided that we were going to do The Bees because I think that one, it was kind of an interesting an idea to see John Saxon as sort of like a animals attack movie. And not only that, but like you said in our last episode, The Bees didn't even get a Wikipedia synopsis, so no one could be bothered to. Or was it Wikipedia or IMDb? Can't remember.
Wikipedia.
Yeah, Wikipedia. Nobody could be bothered to actually write a synopsis for it. So that was intriguing in itself. But also, just to preface, I did pick up The Bees on Blu-ray. Because I saw that it was on sale from Vinegar Syndrome's Labor Day sale a few weeks ago. So I picked it up purposely for this show. So, with slipcover, by the way. Important to know.
I'm curious how this movie is compared to the 1978's also The Swarm, starring Michael Caine. I speak very breathy. That's how you know I'm very serious. And a cavalcade of star power in that movie too. Lee Grant, Richard Chamberlain, Slim Pickens.
I've never seen The Swarm either.
Apparently, it's one of the worst movies ever made.
See, I would have assumed it would be a little bit more serious than The Bees. But yeah, maybe in terms of quality, not great. But I haven't seen it, so yeah, we'll have to check that out at some point and see. I haven't seen too many bee-related movies entirely. I do have another one. I don't know if it's specifically bees, but it is of a stinging insect variety. It's called Stung. I do have that one on Blu-ray. But yeah, I've not really encountered too many bee or stinging insect movies. There's also Mosquito that I have. And I can, and of course, Arachnophobia as well.
Ooh, that's
the John Goodman vehicle.
How dare you? How dare you,
I've seen that, but
Jeff Daniels.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Yeah,
it's John. It's a John Goodman vehicle. I've always thought of it as a John Goodman movie. The John Goodman movie, Arachnophobia.
No, but if it has Jeff Daniels in it, regardless of
it's true.
It's Jeff Daniels vehicle.
Yeah, it's been a really long time since I've seen Arachnophobia, and I believe the last time I saw it really was maybe on TV.
I probably haven't seen it since the 90s.
Yeah,
because I remember it like freaking me out because I used to be afraid of spiders.
Yes, yeah, and I do too. I remember it being a little, And
then I watched Eight-Legged Freaks with David Arquette, and I'm like, yeah, this is okay.
And then it dispelled your fears of spiders. You're like,
those CGI spiders and David Arquette yelling, "Eight-legged freaks!"
Now I would say bees in particular. It's kind of interesting. Bees are not one. Or at least for me, are not one of those sort of like phobic insects. What do you think? Like, do you feel like a lot of people that are like, oh, bees? I'm scared of bees.
Your son.
Well, yeah, that's a little bit different though. He has a phobia because he actually got stung. So it was like his first experience, and he got stung on the lip too. So
it's good.
That's not super fun.
Yeah, it's a good first time. No,
it wasn't a bee actually too. Just
that's the thing. I don't think of bees like that, but like the ground bees, those little shitheads.
Bees, yeah.
I had a nest last year right outside like my freaking porch going outside, leaving my apartment, and I got stung right in the fucking leg as soon as I walked out there. But ground bees are bastards, wasps, yellow jackets.
I feel like
the nice honeybee. No, I mean
Yeah, I feel like there's less phobia of bees and more like you fuckers, like they just have a sort of natural aversion to them, but
they're just shitheads like mosquitoes. Like if you get or a horsefly that just keeps us like, you fucking go away.
And I do agree, like the honeybee, the bumblebee, you're just like, oh, look at that little bumblebee prancing around out there,
or those nice
pollinating our flowers. But
or those nice big fat ones, those are the best ones. Those ones that can barely get around.
The plumpy poo-like ones where like lumbering around. You hear like the lumbering theme music as they go by. They're barely staying afloat,
That'd be great if you just heard a bee carousel behind them with a tuba just doing the
yeah, basically. So again, I guess with those are the more common ones that you actually see around, unless you live someplace like Africa or Australia where they're big ass bees. Like I feel like there's less of a phobia, and it's just like, oh, look at that goofy bee over there, doing
not only that, from playing Conker's Bad Fur Day as a kid, I got to see tickly bees that made a sunflower expose her big tits. So,
there you go.
It's like, that's a parlor trick, and then you get to see the king bee fuck a flower. Well, off screen, but you get to see the sounds. The 90s were crazy.
And so, and we'll talk about that, like this movie itself with the idea about bees. But in the 70s, it's the 70s were another throwback to the 50s, where the 50s had all of the nuclear animal movies. Pretty much any kind of animal you can think of that would attack or could attack was then irradiated and became a large animal that would attack you. So like the one that I think is probably one of the funniest in terms of just the idea is like the killer shrews, where they're like, what would be a good animal?
Piranhas.
Shrews.
Well, I didn't know. So again, this is like one of the great things of this podcast. As I'm looking at IMDb for trivia, I would calling this like the subgenre of like bee attack films. It's like that can't be. No, There's like 6 of them from the 70s along. Invasion of the Bee Girls from 73, Killer Bees from 74, The Savage Bees from 76, The Swarm from 78, and Terror Out of the Sky from 78 as well. Like, what do you mean? Like, what are we doing? Like, what? Like,
There's a whole subgenre of movies that are just bees.
You can just tell, like, the cocaine trip and like New Hollywood at the time had no reins and no desire to, like, you know, cut it off when they should have.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that does, you know, like I said, it kind of goes back to the 50s, except the 50s, you know, had a more limited run of movies. You know, at least at that time, you think about how many movies were being pumped out, it wasn't as many. And so you get to the 70s, and now there's just even more. And yeah, just, I guess for whatever reason, bees became like, you know, bees. And you know what, too? There's got to be somebody out there who is like the expert in bee horror movies. They're like, yeah, I know every fucking movie about bees that were made. I would like to meet that guy.
Well, or woman. That'll be our sub podcast.
Yeah, it's like, let's get that bee guy on here.
Spin-off after a decade.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Can you imagine just a podcast like you'd run out? You're like, yeah, we're going to start a secondary podcast as our sister podcast about bee horror movies. And we're like, all right, we've done 9 episodes and we're calling it quits. See you later, guys.
We're ending on a good note. We're doing a bee movie.
A bee, yeah, right? Yeah. All right, so bees it is. We're going to talk about bees here in a second, but let's take a break and talk about the beer that we have on the show today. It's my job to get it this time, and I was feeling lazy, so I didn't go to our beer package store, or packy, wherever your lingo is for a beer store, this time, because I was like, I don't feel like going there. I was getting my flu shot already at the grocery store, and I was like, you know what? We're just going to check it out here, see what they've got. And so I landed on Berkshire Brewing Company because for some reason I don't see this beer group anywhere else except at Hannaford. They have like some sort of like distribution deal with Hannaford where it's like, you know what? Anywhere there's a Hannaford, Berkshire Brewing Company is going to be there on the shelves. And Hannaford has a couple of those where it's like you don't see them anywhere else but at Hannaford. It's weird. But anyway, Berkshire Brewing Company, I've had a couple from them before. I think I had one and it was like a Bigfoot or something like that. I don't know.
I was gonna say, did you have any?
But it was monsters. It was creatures.
I was gonna say, did you have any when you were going to college out in this?
No, actually, that's kind of funny because I did go to college in the Berkshires. No, I have never had Berkshire Brewing Company.
Because their website is saying they've been around since 94. So they're like, you know, they're old, you know, old craft brewing.
Yeah, no, I've never actually had them. They're from Deerfield.
South Deerfield. Which is funny too, because it says on their website, established in 1994 in South Deerfield, Berkshire Brewing Company is New England's premier regional craft brewery.
Actually,
well,
so
I think you're forgetting about Treehouse.
True. You know what though? Is this the same Berkshire Brewing Company that also makes steel rail? Because if that's the case, then yes, I have had a lot of beer. Because back in my college days, we definitely had a lot of.
Is that malt liquor?
No, it wasn't a malt liquor. No, it was just again like a good. I think it was actually a pale ale, which again is kind of interesting because you weren't able to find that easily, or like it, you know, pale ales weren't a huge thing back in the day.
You're right, it is a pale ale, and they got it on their website.
Yep. So
you can get it in a keg if you want.
I'm not sure if these are the same. I guess they gotta be, right? They gotta be the same. It's just that they've rebranded a lot. Oh my god, we're totally wrong here. It's not Berkshire. I was thinking it's Berkshire. It's Burlington Beer Company, which is pretty funny because we're in a completely different state.
It's funny too because I was looking for like the beer on there.
Yeah,
but you know,
and I was like, no way, dude, no way. This is the same Berkshire Beer Company that went to school with. No, we're talking about Burlington Beer Company.
Oh wow.
So maybe we should cut that from the.
No. That's cool.
No, we just roll with it. We'll just keep it in. Keep it in. No, yes. So I don't know. I don't know why, because so you actually got me on to thinking it was Berkshire Brewing Company though, because you were the one that looked at it first and tell me that it was based in Deerfield, and I was like, oh, okay. Just an interesting. I don't know how we got off on that.
I must
that wrong foot.
My lazy eye misread the.
It's funny though, yeah, because there's the Berkshire Brewing Company, and then there's Burlington Beer Company. So take all that back. We're doing Burlington Beer Company's Light in the Window, which is a rye IPA, and I really like saying it that way, rye IPA. It's a rye India Pale Ale, and these are surprisingly not done that often. I've only had probably a few, like a handful of actual rye IPAs, but I really do enjoy the taste of rye. Give me a nice rye sandwich, give me a nice rye bourbon. I'm a big fan. And so whenever I see a rye IPA, I'm always intrigued by what that has to offer. So rye IPA is on the table for today. I'll let you go first. What do you think about the rye IPA from Burlington Beer Company, Burlington, Vermont?
Yeah, it's Massachusetts, New York, and cheese. It's okay. Like, I like a good rye beer. There's not a lot at all. The one that comes most to mind is Sierra Nevada's Ruthless Rye, which they'll put out every now and then.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's a West Coast style IPA. It has the more bitter floral notes to it with a slight rye spiciness to it. It's not very, not overly overwhelming or really that, like if you don't like rye, I don't think it's going to really offend the sensibilities because it's pretty mild. It's very much on the back end of after the hoppiness of the IPA itself, you get that slight spiciness to it. It's not bad. I wish it was more rye-y, because just like you, I love a good rye. The IPA itself is okay. It's not knocking me out of the park. It's pretty kind of watery mouthfeel. Has a little bit of a kind of weaker craft beer style IPA West Coast taste to it, which kind of reminds me of Harpoon. It's good, but it's not gonna wow you. If it's a couple steps above homebrew. It's not bad. I'd be curious to see what the rest of their stuff, kind of, because they got a shit ton of stuff out here. So I don't know if maybe it's just the style or not, but it just kind of seems like it comes off as an okay attempt at it. So
yeah, I'm gonna disagree in that I do think that the beer itself is pretty good. I will say I do think that you're right, the rye flavor itself is somewhat dispersed within the beer, where I can't say specifically that I get a particular rye flavor to it. With that said, I do get it's a kind of a spicy IPA to it. It's almost the sort of the rosiny element of sometimes a lot of rosin or a lot of free floating yeast can be kind of spicy. I would say that's kind of the same regard for this one, where you kind of have that spiciness at the forefront with a more IPA situated flavor to it. And I think that the IPA itself is pretty solid. I'm not really finding it to be a step above homebrew. I think that it's a good, solid IPA. I do think, though, that the rye element to it, even though they did use, I think they used flaked rye, and they also used a bit of another rye to it. It's not particularly overwhelmingly rye flavor. So it's hard too, because sometimes too much rye can also be a bad thing. You don't want it to be too spicy, too overwhelming. So I can understand, wanting to pare it back a little bit. I think it's an interesting IPA style, and I do think it is a difficult one to really get right, which is why we don't see it made that often. I think it's harder to pair the two types of flavors, and a lot harder than to just crank out another New England, right? Like another hazy beer. Because those already have those traditional type of tropical notes and flavors, whereas the rye is sort of at odds with some of the other hoppy elements to it. So I think it's a difficult thing to get right. I do think that Late in the Window is pretty good. Like, I would definitely continue drinking it. I don't think it's like anywhere near that bad. But just maybe some of the rye flavor doesn't come out as much as I was hoping for. So, but I like it. I think this is the second Burlington beer I've had. The other one, I was just looking on their website. The other one was the Creatures of Magic, which was a New England style IPA, which I also thought was really good. I think I recall it being just a tad bit rosiny, or yeasty. But other than that, I've liked what I've had so far. The cans are really cool. So I really enjoy like the actual visual representation of them too. So if you do see them around and it looks like they have some sort of distribution with Hannaford, check it out. Burlington, Vermont, and not Massachusetts.
At least it's not Magic Cat.
True. The better Vermont brewery, for sure.
I don't even think they're open still.
I really, haven't really seen much from Magic Cat whatsoever.
The number 9 still gets pumped out, but I don't even think they're in control of that anymore.
Have you even seen number 9 anywhere around here? Because I haven't.
Well, that's with good reason, because it's awful. You know what? It'd be kind of nice to try that now.
Try it again. See what
I mean, it's been like a decade, and be like, how we doing? I'm like,
Their beer finder is showing that it's at like a couple places, including our local beer center. So
it's just like a pain in the balls. Like, not quite pale ale. Like, okay, so what are you getting? It's like, oh, it's some fucking fruit flavored beer. You fucking assholes.
Apricot.
They only make the number 9 now.
Yep, that's it. All right, so moving on to the bees, or the bees. I like to say it like that.
No, you gotta say it like the Batman comic, from the days of when Atop the Fourth Wall used to be something to watch on a Thursday when that guy with the glasses, cool, a deadly bee weapon, bees. My God,
bees. So this movie is
pollinate your senses.
Ooh, that's a nice little catchphrase there. This movie is a movie that I never really thought about before. It has an idea that I've never thought about before, but it's true. It probably happens. It's about big honey, the big honey industry, and the evil that goes on in the big honey industry. I never really thought about this, but I'm sure any fucking importable industry has some sort of, shady underpinning to it. And the bees kind of represents that, in that here are these people, including John Saxon, a prestigious scientist, studying African bees, and they're doing all this work to like try to figure out what they can do with these African bees. And, a byproduct of that is to, make these bees less killer and more honey producing, so that they're just more productive as a species. And then you've got these companies coming in and like, yes, that sounds very great. You know what? We use honey all the time, and that'll be great for our income and business. And don't they produce royal jelly as well? And John Saxon's like, well, not that great. I mean, it's just like regular bee jelly. And they're like, yes, we'll get a lot out of this. We're going to make this special royal jelly cream serum that women can put on their face, and everybody will love it. So it's like, it's the Mad Men of honey, really. It was what it comes down to. Because the bees is just, it's a strange movie all around. Would you agree? It's just, the whole premise, idea, the way it plays out. It's a weird movie. It's got a weird idea.
It definitely doesn't play well in 50 years out. Just because I think these type of movies are very antiquated, and like they served a purpose in the 50s and the 70s, these creature features, and there's a reason why they slid into irrelevancy and obscurity after the fact, because it's like outside of like Godzilla and King Kong beating the shit out of each other, it's like, like think of like if they remade The Birds today, like, oh no, the birds are attacking me, oh no, this one, it'd just be like, hey, this one shot up a car, like, what the hell, it's just an oddity. I'm not one for these type of films. It's definitely just like a weird premise. It's just like,
it's got this weird niche where it is sort of cartoony a lot of the time. And then yet it has this weird, sinister undertone, especially towards the end of the movie, where it kind of ditches the kind of happy-go-lucky elements of it, almost like TV sitcom style elements, and it kind of throws that out at the end, and it goes for a much more darker tone. So it's a really strange sort of idea. This is a Roger Corman produced movie, who was ripping them out at the time.
He was always ripping them out.
And funny enough, this movie was meant to be directed by Jack Hill, who we know from such blaxploitation hits as Coffee, Foxy Brown, and for whatever reason he wasn't able to. He didn't end up directing this, so he was replaced by Alfredo Zacharias, who kind of came in, took over. It was a co-writer on it. It's also credited with as a co-writer with Jack Hill. But, he's not really, Alfredo Zacharias, not really known for too much, and I don't think I've seen any of his other movies besides some of his written works like Demonoid from 1981. So it's a kind of a weird scenario here. I do wonder how it would have played out if Jack Hill was at the helm. Because Jack Hill, he didn't do just blaxploitation films. He did a lot of work, actually. And he just kind of ended up working on a lot of Roger Corman related productions because he kind of, just kind of stuffed in there. And they sometimes happen to be blaxploitation. So I do wonder what this movie would have been like with him at the helm. But what we get is kind of this weird cross between, like I said, sort of like a sitcom-y element, sort of like a... like I said, it's almost like Mad Men in the first half of it, where it's really delving into industry about bees, delving into like sort of political intrigue about bees, like how they affect the economy of different countries. Like we get that whole scene where at the beginning where John Saxon is basically presenting the issue with the killer bees to a bunch of different countries, the heads of different countries, and they're kind of going on about how that impacts them.
The best part was when they're like, the honey's replacing the sugar, and the Cuban guy's like, hey, what's wrong with sugar? That's a car.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, right. Yeah, you get that like stereotypical like...
They're all, it's so cartoon. You're right, because it is cartoony. Like the guy like, oh, United Arab Emirates. Like, you gotta wear a fucking like, hat, to look like you're Muslim, and like, everyone, it's so fucking hilarious, this like UN thing. It's like a 1960s Batman, like,
right.
But the thing is about that whole like idea, you're making it sound very smart and complicated. It's not though. Like, it's so pedantic and stupid about it, and very bare bones. Like this whole like, yes, I'm JG businessman. Yeah. Here's my big scar, so I'm JG businessman. I'm after profit, goddammit. I don't care what the hell you're trying to study, because I'm JG businessman. I just like money.
The businessman.
Who are you? I'm the doctor. Doctor. I study the bees, and so to make sure these things don't do, it's very like speed racery. Like
the businessmen particularly are like sort of like what you said, just very caricatured businessmen of like coming in. I think they even literally say at one point, like, I don't care about this science.
It's like just like, we're not gonna let the bees go. We promise, because we need money.
Right.
It's funny too. Like even the one guy, he's like, "What's your name, Mr. Green?" He's like, "It's Irving Gray." He's like, yes, you. They're a businessman. That's your one line in the movie.
The businessmen, they might as well be twirling mustaches, like just.
Like the Monopoly.
Evilly, yeah, exactly, because that's pretty much how they're represented here. Going back a little bit though, like the movie opens up with this really jaunty, jazzy funk tune, while the narrator is saying like something fairly sinister, like killer bees are taking over. They've moved from Africa up through South America, and they're slowly but surely making their way into the Americas, killing livestock, thousands of people dead. And the tune behind it's like, it's just like a really tonally shifted performance that I thought was pretty funny. Just how like jaunty the music is while they're talking about this like, you know, epidemic of bees that are spreading across the world. I really like that. And then it opens in this like bee ranch, right, where Angel Tompkins' character Sandra I should say Sandra, everybody calls her Sandra. Sandra. She and her husband, this scientist, have been studying these killer bees because they're trying to figure out, like, how can we make these killer bees not so killer? Like, what can we do to them to kind of domesticate them, you know, like dogs? And everybody keeps bees around in their house and just like, hey, bees, how you doing? Just give them pets and stuff. And so they are actually vandalized. So dad and his son are on the property and they're trying to steal honey from the killer bees bee house, right? What the fuck do you call a bee house? A beehive area. I don't even know what they call it. But they're trying to steal honey from it, and the kid is stung to death, which is kind of a, you know, especially after like having this jaunty tune and the opening, which is kind of happy-go-lucky, and the wife's like, oh, I was trying to have sex with you, you know, but you're not coming up from your work. And it's like all really happy-go-lucky, and then this kid gets fucking, you know, brutally stung to death and drowns in the lake or whatever. That's a pretty kind of over-the-top start to the movie, I thought.
But of course, it gives you that whole, like, you know, theme of the John Saxon movies of late. It's like, oh, look at these natives.
True.
Afraid of a couple of bumblebees. And that was so great. Like, after the dad brings, like, the body of the kid. The dead body in the mob, you know, her husband pops and he's like, wait, I'm white. Let me explain to you why you shouldn't be mad.
Yeah, and then he goes on to explain it in, like, the very, like,
broken Portuguese English.
Like, hold on. Bees, dangerous. I'm working on them. You profit money. You know, and it's like, and it's sort of like this offensive, like, and then you know, some guy says, yes, we speak English. We know what we know what you're saying over here.
Diablo bees.
Yeah,
No,
devil bees.
No bueno.
It's a pretty offensive, like, little scene, and no wonder they then storm the con. They're like, "Fuck this guy." Fuck, you know.
He looks like, with his like white like safari outfit and his like gray silver hair and his giant chin. He looks like somebody straight out of like a Rudyard Kipling poem.
Right.
Like,
yeah, that little like fop of silvery hair, while his wife's like 30 years younger than him. And she's just like, come to bed, honey. I'm trying to conceive. We want to have a baby. And the maid's bringing them like food that's supposed to.
Yes. This will make your ovaries just spit eggs out left and right. You know, as soon as one of Papa's sperm hits the labia, instantaneous, instant transmission, just boop, boom. You know,
and
doesn't even have to go in. Science, Portuguese science.
That's right. But this scientist guy, he's got to die to make room for John Saxon, the ultimate scientist that takes the place of this husband for Sandra. Yeah. So I like this opening sequence. I think it's really kind of like an interesting way to start the movie, where you do start off with like this information about killer bees and how we move from this South American area, this Portuguese area, to the United States, and then they're kind of dealing with the bee crisis there as the bees continue to like kind of swarm out. And not only do they swarm and have they been moving from these areas from Africa, but they've also got guys trying to smuggle in the bees into the United States by like carrying them in like luggage cases on a plane, bringing them over because these, you know, evil businessmen are trying to undercut the scientists by getting their own black market bees across, you know, customs. So you have them being smuggled in and kind of releasing them into the wild, and then there's a whole population of killer bees that are just spreading in black masses across the United States. That's like the scope of the movie, and I think throughout the bees there's an equal parts dealing like with board meetings, right? Like, you know, John Saxon attending this boring ass stuffy meeting with either executives or this UN of the economy, and then there's bee madness that occurs too, right? So like you kind of get equal parts of that. How do you feel about like how it sandwiches those two ideas in there? Like, do you think that the science of it is interesting, or would you just rather have like bee madness throughout the movie?
It's more interesting than the bee madness because they don't really do anything with it. But the thing is, this movie, like with Beyond Evil, is a 95-minute effort when it should have been like a 45-minute TV episode.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because it just lingers on things like the amount of times they're meeting to be like, yes, I'm a doctor. Yes, we'll listen to you. Yes, I'm businessman. Here's like 12 different scenarios right in a row of like, I'm a lady who's going to the bathroom, and I'm going to eat a donut because I'm fat. You know, I'm a fat lady, and I get stung. Ooh, and then like, I'm an old man with rheumatoid, and you there, little boy, I'll give you $1 to go fetch me some bees, because the only thing that cures the old itis in me bones is bee stings, you know.
Right, and that's that type of those scenarios right there is what I was talking about when I said it, like it feels really like a TV sitcom sort of thing, because it's like all of a sudden out of nowhere you get this one scene where there's guys just like, you know what would really help my rheumatoid arthritis? Getting stung by bees on it. And the kids are like, really? And he's like, I hope it works. And then they just go and find bees, and it's almost like a Leave It to Beaver style like sitcom element for a little bit while they find the bees. And then really tonally shifting is the bees that actually attack and just like kill this man in an extremely violent fashion. They just start stinging him over and over and over again, and he like, you know, basically does a death rattle and rolls on the ground. So it's like there's all kinds of like weird tonal shifts to this movie that, you know, almost makes it seem like they wanted two different types of movies here. They wanted like a kind of a more serious, dramatic representation of big honey industry, and then they also were like, you know what, but we need to actually show some people getting killed by bees. So here's this like, you know, really violent, you know, epidemic of bees that's happening on the other side of things. And a lot of times those things don't even meet. Like, the only time they really show John Saxon and Angel Tompkins being concerned about the bees is like later on in the movie when they're actually being attacked by them. For the most part, they're watching like these news broadcasts where the reporters are like, a massive infestation of killer bees has just spread around, leaving thousands dead, cattle dead, you know, planes crashing, blah, blah, blah. The army's been amassed to go out there and take on these bees. And they're watching and like, wow, that seems like it's mildly upsetting. You know, they don't even look upset. They're just like, what can we do? They're going to kill all these bees. We don't want them to kill the bees. What can we do about this? So it's just weird sometimes how John Saxon is not even really brought into like some of the proceedings of what's going on when you get these more like Roger Corman-esque moments of being attacked by bees. It's, you know, I don't know. It's jarring.
Nice screen effect of like, you know, dots flying on the screen.
Oh yeah, the superimposed bees that they got there. Yeah, because most of the time when you see the bees, you do get this like very superimposed looking here's a bunch of bees flying in the forefront. And in the background, some guy or extra is like falling over, really ridiculously like windmilling in the background. And you're like, oh, I guess he's getting attacked by bees. There is also another really funny scene of an extra where they're first seeing the cloud of bees on the beach. And the guy just literally falls over and faints. Like he's like peering out, looking, and then just falls over.
Well, I was going to say,
Dead
the best one is the opening, like from the fire that's being burnt in the house, and then when the doctor's like, I need to find my notes because there's tomfoolery going on. And as he's like stumbling back into the house, a guy comes out of like a corridor on fire, just like just running around, and he's looking at him like, I don't have time for you right now.
That is true. Yeah, I forgot about that one. That is hilarious as well. Just this guy on fire, and the professor's like, I must find my notes. I don't know.
I can just see somebody in the back being like, go, like pushing him out with a stick. Just like,
oh yeah, that one is a really funny scene too. Yeah. The movie just has these weird scenarios, and I'm here for it, to be honest with you. I did find the bees to be, somewhat enjoyable, even though it is really campy, corny at times. Does have like that kind of boring approach to getting a lot of exposition out about the killer bees. I still kind of found it enjoyable. I was kind of impressed too to see how many times John Saxon's on screen with actual bees. Both Angel and Tompkins and John Saxon being,
had it in the contract. Had it in the contract. He's like, listen, you ain't getting those fucking things really near me.
Well, no, he did though. There was one that actually almost flies into his mouth. At one point it's like literally on his, and then you see him like kind of like, But I was impressed, and they actually have them sometimes wearing the beekeeper outfits and going into the actual hives. I thought that was a nice touch that they had there, where they actually had real life bees, because most of the time, you're right, whenever you see bee attacks, it's like superimposed bees. Or like, let's also talk about how did you like the various stock footage of planes crashing while they played bees over top of them? like the bees are just flying up in the atmosphere, crashing planes left and right, like birds flying into jet engines.
Yeah, they can. It's magical. It's powerful. The whole like bee cloud thing just looks so stupid. It looks like something like the like Wicked Witch of the West is over there.
The black bee smog monster.
And apparently they have like 20 into their stealth tree, because no one hears them until they fucking arrive. Like didn't know there were bees coming until all of a sudden they just attack. Giant black cloud overhead should be sounding like billion alarms going off. No, we're okay. We're all fine over here. Everything's okay.
It's the Walking Dead of bees. Where the zombies are like quiet until they're not.
Until Daryl stabs one in the head.
Yeah. I like too when that one little shithead kid is like, "Oh, you guys want bees? Here's some bees," and he throws a fucking baseball at the beehive for some reason. It's like chucks a baseball at it.
What do you mean? That's just good fun from the set.
Yes.
Oh, you're allergic to bees? Let me throw this baseball at this hive to get that was, see, when the kid dies like in the hospital from being stung, they're just like, well, that was just good, clean fun, kid. You're gonna be the next Nolan Ryan. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's all fun and games until someone gets stung to death by bees, and then yeah.
Macaulay Culkin was taking notes from this film for My Girl. Like, yeah, that 90s classic.
That's right. If I was a B movie expert, I would be able to, bring that in too. This reminds me of that time in My Girl when, Macaulay Culkin
it's stung to death.
We haven't even talked about the fact that there's this whole idea that we haven't even mentioned him at all. Angel Tompkins' character, Sandra's uncle, is Dr. Hummel, who is a prestigious scientist of bees. He's played by John Carradine here. John Carradine really hamming it up.
Father of Keith and David.
Yeah. And he's basically just brought in for like a lot of again, the sitcom-y style laughs, where even at one point he actually says some questionable things about like how first when he first finds out that Sandra's been staying at John Saxon's apartment, he's like, "Wow, you move fast. You know, like your husband just fucking died."
Hold on, that's not questionable. That's great. Like, oh, your husband's just dead, and she comes out with a fucking karate gi on, and John's doing like fucking these stretches that you would do like after a hard round of coitus, and he's like, your husband just literally died like 2 days ago, and you're already fucking this man.
Yeah, here you are at it again. And then not only that,
and then, but then like with the 70s sass, she's like, Uncle Great Rizzy.
Like, we're not doing that. And then they do exactly that later on. But
no, you know, the studying of bees just makes you want to grab, you know, it's the woman next to you and be like,
it's the released pheromones.
Not only that, too, John Saxon's collar on those button-ups he's wearing, fucking going from his neck all the way down to his knees, they're so freaking big.
And if you saw John Saxon doing that level of, you know, karate as well, you would be interested, too. Like, first thing, you're like, wow.
Isn't that great that they managed to squeeze that in? Like, you think they threw that in there? Because, like, you were in Enter the Dragon. That made a bunch of fucking money. John.
I do think they did.
Why don't you do some karate? You know, you're like,
why don't you bring your black belt? You know, we'll get it in the movie. You could do your karate over here. But you know what? Props for him. You know, he has pretty good balance. So
I love those brown like superstars he's wearing too. Those brown velvet superstars or gazelles that he's wearing. Those Adidas, they look great. They're all brown. Mm-hmm. Something that would only have been made in the 70s because it's just straight earth tones to go with his green, dark green forest green velvet sweatsuit. I
know. But there's the other thing that John Carradine says too, because Sandra, she does like they have a video of John's studies of bees because he's been like hearing them make a different noise, right? And so she's in the background of that video and she's like blowing a kiss and stuff. And John Carradine's like, "Is that kiss for me? That must be for me. She's my niece." And then John Saxon goes, what is it? What is the actual thing about incest?
It's like, I don't know if that kiss should be for incest or something like that.
Yeah, it's like a great line about incest, and I can't remember the exact line now. I wish I had written it down because I would have been able to
kisses both of them.
I know I have it here somewhere. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Let me find it because I have the quote. I don't know. I guess it's not that important, but it's a great line about incest, which it kind of took me by surprise in this type of movie. Because again, this movie does kind of take you by surprise in the way that it kind of works through this like comical scenario, but then also has this really kind of dark element to it at the end, where it kind of ends on a downer note. Almost in like a sort of, the movie almost has like a alien style, like science fiction thing to it towards the end of the movie, where the bees, now that they've been able to communicate and have apparently evolved into this like new entity that can communicate with the humans and basically taking over their environment, they've now become like sentient and they are trying to share the earth with the humans. And like now it's like, you won't be killing any bees anymore, humans won't be fumigating us, we'll be living together with you. Really strange type of idea. I like it to a certain extent. I feel like it gets a little muddled though, because the film kind of works through a couple different research elements to it, right? Like, because there's like the pheromone element. I actually don't even think they call it pheromone. I think they call it like pherone. The pherone element is what they've been working on, where they think if they fumigate the bees with the pherone, they will stop being so aggressive and like want to make more honey. And that ends up not working. And then there's the other element that John's character has been working on, which is like basically just dousing them with radioactive waves and kind of like genetically altering the bees. And I feel like at the end of the movie, it doesn't really come to a conclusion where it's like, did John's tampering with, radiation actually cause the genetic evolution of these bees to now be sentient? Did you get that? Did you get that feeling from it? Was it like, were they trying to hint at a radioactivity, or was it like a literal evolution that they were talking about?
I think it was from like they were talking about constantly trying to get them to evolve into a different species so that they'd still be as productive, but their violence would be neutered.
Mm-hmm. So just the act of like doing that research and working on them.
Yeah, but that would take evolution takes,
It's not like 5 days.
Yeah. But also too, the fact by the time like that whole like Pharaoh, they crop dust the world and it's great, it's going well. Fucking Jimmy Carter shows up. This film that has not one but two presidents in it, because Gerald Ford's also in here too. But I mean, it's fine. But the film, like after that, when they're like, "Oh no, this isn't gonna work," and when you have John Carradine dying, like the bees, they think like men now. The men, like the film's got like another 30 minutes left, and it's like you are totally out of steam at this point. Like I said, this movie should not be as long as it is. It's so stretched out, and then it's another 20 minutes of, oh no, we're all running away. Yes, the bee epidemic, and we've got the newsreel again. The bees are attacking again, and people are dying, and all cities have been taken over by bees. The world is hell, a hellscape only for bees. It's like you could just stop,
And not only that though, but you didn't even mention the fact that John Carradine's killed because this, the big businessman actually puts a hit out on them.
The undersecretary of the ag department. Which is the funniest thing, too, because he's calling, like, from his office. Like, yes, hello, I need a hit.
Yeah, he's like, this is your contact. I'm taking out a contract.
I hired some Mexicans to come chase this man down. It's like, oh, wow, like, right, fresh off after Watergate, you think, like, you'd be a little bit, craftier than calling from, like, the ag department desk that you sit at, like, yes, I need an assassination.
Right, not even couched or anything. Just literally, like the secretary just left, which is funny too when the secretary's in and he's like comes into the office, she's opening the blinds or whatever, and he's just like handsy right away, like, oh, what's going on here? What are you doing? She's like, I didn't wear my bra for you. Can I do anything else for you? And he's like, not right now. I must call a hit in. Yeah, so like there's that whole element too of the hit happening and like these guys infiltrating the science lab and like letting out the bees, and John Carradine gets shot. There's a lot of muddled concepts that go on in the bees. But again, like I said, it's like definitely a bad bee movie. Get it, the pun? But I kind of enjoyed it myself. I think that it, I do agree too. It a little too long, and it definitely would have been suited more for like skip a lot of that, intrigue that's not really that interesting, and kind of go right to the meat of this movie, and then you would have had a nice like 45-minute episode of a TV show like Circle of Fear or something like that. I think with what you get now, it's kind of stretched thin, where it has a lot of these ideas but doesn't really know what to do with them, and eventually it kind of lands on this weird thing. It's like almost like an alien invasion, but you've got a bee invasion. And I would say that the bees is kind of, it definitely has some environmental themes that make it kind of ahead of its time in certain ways, where it's like, look, all of this pollution and all of this damage that we're doing to our environment has often resulted in evolution of previous beings, and what couldn't evolve just died out. And well, look what's happened. Now you've got bees evolving because of the damage that we've done, and now they're basically our, almost our superiors here. It's kind of got that nice, environmental theme to it that's really tacked on. I'm not saying that it's, it's not, really well done or anything like that, but it does have it in here and kind of puts it in a nice little spot of like, you could watch this with one of those 50s giant insect movies like They.
Them, you mean?
Them, I mean, not They. I'm thinking of the other movie called They. Them, with giant ants, or, the spider movies, Tarantula from the 50s. And you would not really, I don't know, you wouldn't lose too much because it would make a good double feature. So yeah, and it's just a weird overall movie. What do you think on the Saxon-y Scale? Think about
he's like a 7 out of 10 in this one. He's kissing ladies, very big collar.
He's got that whole first scene where she walks in and he's macking down that lady right in the
doorway. right in the doorway. Not even which that's also like stupid too. Like, what was is that lady supposed to be like a fucking like agent for the business? Business, like John J. Businessman. like she was like sitting there like, oh, what's going on? This case of bees.
I'll just open it up and like let them all out.
Yeah, but he's being very forward, and he's studious. He's doing his karate. He whips one of the assassin's ass with his karate skills. It's like a 7 out of 10 Saxon scale. He's got his bases covered, and he's
got charm.
He's charming. He's engaged.
I mean, do you think that he's also phoning it in?
No, because I don't think he's given like that. But he's overall he's not he's the leading man, but he's kind of ancillary at times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah,
like John Carradine's got kind of like a bigger, even though he is a supporting role. He's definitely hamming it up and having the time of his life, playing fucking Nazi doctor that's escaped to Argentina, like talking about the bee. Like he's
I used to do these experiments on people, but now it's bees.
He's fucking Dr. Strangelove.
Yep.
But no, I'd give it 7 out of 10. Like, this is the most Saxony he's been so far.
I think so too. Yeah, I do think it is the best, and he's got the charm and charisma down. He's got, he also gets a chance to show this business side too. Yeah, I like it. I think this is one of the better Saxon appearances that we've seen on Saxon Samhain so far.
What would you give it?
What would I rate this movie, or what would I rate Saxon?
The Saxon.
Oh yeah, I would agree with a 7, maybe an 8 out of 10. I mean, he gets to showcase karate too. So what other Saxon movie can you think of where he's got the charm, the charisma, gets the lady, also gets to showcase his karate? It's kind of got everything. Got everything that you would want. The only thing, I guess, is that he's not playing a police officer here. So if he was also a police officer, you're looking at 9, 10 or 10 out of 10 for a Saxon scale. This is the whole shebang right there.
I find it very insulting on the Wikipedia page, John Carradine and Claudio Brook have their characters as Dr. Sigmund Hummel and Dr. Miller. Yeah, John Saxon, also a doctor in this movie, is just John Norman.
True. That is true. Yeah, he doesn't get the doctor.
Why don't they have that? I'm going to edit the page right now to fix it.
Yeah. You're like, you know what? This is really important. He needs the honorific.
This is an injustice that is going on for too long.
That's right. All right, so we got to rate the bees on a scale of 0 to 10. Crashing airplanes due to bees leaving our upper atmosphere. What would you give the bees?
I'll give it a 5.5 out of 10. It's fun enough. It's really stupid. It's just a fucking idiotic concept. Oh no, killer bees. Oh, killer bees. That was something as a 5-year-old. Oh, killer bees down in Texas. Oh, they're gonna kill me. It's a dumb, stupid concept, but it's fun enough. They do enough fun here. It's hammy. It's schlocky, but it revels in it. It knows what it is. It's a B movie playing down with a pretty good cast. I think John Saxon is pretty damn good in this. He is enjoyable. He is fun. He is engaged compared to the rest of the films we've done so far with him for Saxon Samhain. So he's, top-notch Saxon here. Angela Tompkins as Sandra does a good job playing the blonde lady of love interest. John Carradine's a lot of fun. I think some of the schlockiness of John J. Businessman is pretty, is all I think about with that is BoJack Horseman, I'm adult man, but it's fun. I think the problem with the film, I think that hampers it. This film I think is fun enough to where it could be a 6. I think it just goes on for too long. It's a film that should have been like a TV movie. Should have been like a TV episode because it's got like 40 minutes worth of plot that they stretch out to 95 minutes. Like that last 25 minutes is like interminable. And the whole like Gundam, well, we need to like, be good to the Earth or the Earth is going to get us, blah, 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 blah. Like Wild True comes really hollow coming from a B fucking horror film. And this idea that the bees have won and they've gained sentience, it's just fucking stupid. But yeah, I mean, 5.5 out of 10. It's not something I would recommend to anybody, but if you're going to check it out, go for it. If you like creature features, so 5.5.
Yeah, I would give it a 6 out of 10. I think it's, it's fairly fun. I did enjoy it even during the drier parts where it was kind of going through like either the bee elements. I kind of found it interesting to take a look at sort of the big honey industry and how the economy is affected by honey and what they're doing about it. And especially too, like that kind of like prescient, jokey commercial that they see of like the woman putting the bee royal jelly on her face. I like that, it's kind of a nice little aside there. And I think the movie's fun enough. And if you get to a certain point, I do think that it's really good towards the end of the movie where it does like that whole kind of twist where it moves from just a movie about bees that are sometimes being a pest to a movie that's a little bit more sinister. And so I do, I think that, that element of having the sentient bees is weird, but also, it kind of works. I think I like that like alien science fiction element to it. So 6 out of 10 for me. John Saxon's great in this. Probably one of the biggest reasons why you'd even say like go check out The Bees. Even though it is a weird movie, I think it's worth like one watch in my opinion.
And it's on Tubi, so
yep, it's on Tubi. Yep. All right, that ends our coverage of The Bees. I think we got a couple more episodes to go with Saxon Samhain. What do you want to do next time? You want to do Scorpion's Tail or do you want to do My Mom's a Werewolf?
Let's do Scorpion's Tail because My Mom's Werewolf is sounds more Halloween-y, so we'll see,
It's true. Yeah, it's kind of got like that kind of cheesy Halloween approach to it. It's like, what was that Disney Channel movie? Like My Mom's Dating a Vampire or something like that too? Wasn't it?
I don't know.
So it's kind of got that sound to it. So, all right. So Scorpion's Tail, a little giallo film for us.
He's not even like a big star in it.
No, but he's in it. We'll see how it rates on the Saxon-y Scale. So
it's just looking like he's like 5th card down. Like, who? What has he got? Like a brief appearance? Like,
all right. So tune in next time for our episode on it's the case of the Scorpion's Tail, right? That's the full title.
I don't know. It's Italian. 40 fucking names.
We will be back next week, so definitely tune in. And if you want any reminders of our new episodes, you can subscribe to us on pretty much any podcast app you can think of. We're on Apple Podcasts, our home base at Spotify, pretty much anything. So subscribe, leave us a nice review. That always helps us out. We're on Facebook and Twitter. Search for us on there, Blood and Black Rum Podcast. We have an email address at bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com. Write to us. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, what movies you want us to cover, and we'll definitely keep that in consideration. And you can donate to us on our Patreon page or at our Spotify page. Anything you donate goes back towards beer. So appreciate that in advance. Hopefully you enjoyed our episode on the bees. Hopefully you don't let them get to you. If you hear any, very silent buzzing and then, gets louder, that the bees are nearby. So, but they are stealthy too. So you gotta be careful. We'll be back next week with the case of the Scorpion's Tail. And until then,
take care.